Welcome to Beach Life Unlocked, episode 10. Mitchell David here with my colleague Mike Dodson. Today we're going to talk about getting your rental property ready. We're about to get into a rental season here at the beach and thought it was a prime time to have this conversation. Mike's knee deep in it because he's actually helping a whole bunch of his clients actually manage properties. I did it last year for 1 year to see how Airbnb, VRBO all worked. Because it's important for us to know the nuances of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I didn't last this year.
You didn't last a full season.
I did not. Look, for full disclosure and transparency, it was a great year. I learned a ton, and I also learned rental management is not my niche.
It's not for you.
It is not for. Now, I own rental properties. I used to own a management company. Those were year-round.
You're more suited for long-term rentals.
I am. I'm a long-term.
Put somebody in there. Let them marinate a little bit.
Have the issues. We form a bond. Understand what they need. Airbnb, VRBO. It's back and forth, in and out.
There's a lot. There's a lot involved, for sure.
It's a lot involved.
It's not for the
faint of heart.
Faint of heart. Yeah, I guess you could say that. But people that, if you don't have the time to invest in your property, it's best to hire somebody that does it all day long, all day, every day.
Yeah, I would agree, because I think there's a couple nuances. But before we kind of get into that, let's kind of just set the stage. You're a new landlord, right? And you're getting ready for your season, or maybe you're a seasoned landlord and you own some properties. You just kind of want some additional information. Do you have any thoughts on getting your property ready?
The biggest thing for any property is cleanliness, right? You have to have a clean property.
A deep clean.
Deep clean, yeah, because the number one thing people complain about, especially at the beach, is the property not being clean, right? A lot of the complaints we get, especially on the LVP flooring like we have here, is black feet. Right. Little kids running around with black feet. Now the number one culprit cause for that would be the carpet, right? If you have rugs or carpeting, right, it's gonna collect sand.
The sand. All those minerals.
Yeah, and all the minerals,
right,
and you're never gonna get them all out.
Right.
You could clean all day long. You're not gonna get it all out. And so when somebody comes into your property, walks across the carpet, walks across the floor, you're gonna see streaks. You're gonna see black. Bottom of your feet are gonna be black.
Right. I think people forget too, like the beach, we have a lot of humidity here, right?
Yeah,
so mixture and moisture, and when you have the sliding glass door open, right, and it's hot outside, it creates that moisture.
Cold air meeting the warm air, you're going to create.
The ground's a little bit more damp. It's not damp and like wet, but it does actually let your
sticky.
It does sticky, and so what ends up happening, you start tracking that around. So cleanliness, super important.
That's number one. If you do nothing else, have a clean place.
Agreed.
I think it's important to go into every property, especially this time of year when you're going to have more and more use out of your property. If you're renting, you're going to have people coming in and out. You want to make sure it's operational, right? The air filter's clean in the air handler. You want to make sure the outlets are working. The air conditioner itself is operational, right? Nothing worse than coming down and 90 degrees outside and your air conditioner's not working, and you have people in there that are paying you.
Right, and let's be honest, even though we can go through all those checks, make sure it's deep clean and kind of check all those things, unfortunately, items go wrong.
Yeah, it happens.
Right?
I mean, when you least expect it. Something's going to go wrong at some point when you're not, you can go through your property and make sure everything's perfect. Something's going to happen. Right.
So Mike's good point is the first thing that you probably should do is come down, do a maintenance check. Right. And make sure the place is properly clean. I'm on the other spectrum of what I kind of look at. Like I love when an owner for an Airbnb, VRBO, whatever you want to call it, short-term rental has a coffee bar. I love my coffee.
Oh, coffee! That's on my list of. I've highlighted several items, but the most important thing is a Keurig. You have a coffee maker. Right. Nothing upsets renters more outside of cleanliness than not having coffee readily available.
Correct. No, I agree. And I think that
having a good, well-stocked coffee bar, whether it's K-cups or sugar packets, creamer. You got to have those items because those are things that people don't you get up in the morning, they have their coffee, then they get on the road to come down, right? They're not thinking about, oh, take the coffee with me. They've got to have something accessible.
Right, but I would say this to most people who are renting short term. It's not. You should, I'd make sure that in your car you do have some K-cups, some sugar packets.
Bring that stuff with you.
Just in case. Things happen sometimes, and so make sure you're prepared for that. But as a owner of a property who's doing short-term rentals, you want to make sure you have a coffee bar.
Yep. Something there, a coffee maker, a Keurig, something there that the tenants can use while they're in town, for sure.
Any other type items like that?
I mean, just as an owner, I think having additional pillows, pillowcases, blankets. I think every family has the one person that no matter how hot it is outside, they're cold.
They're still cold.
They're still cold, right? So you need to have items like that they don't think to bring with them. Right. So you have to have them there accessible for tenants. I think pillow covers, people, I think it gets overlooked. We don't want bed bugs here, so we always put mattress covers and pillow covers over all of our stuff to protect them.
So I'll go sidetrack a little bit. Well, because I think this is important. So, obviously in my experience last year, the one thing that we talked about was providing linens, right? A lot of places provide linens. Some rental companies do not provide linens. Some it's an option to get them. But I think that the one that's probably the most curious to me is making beds for people.
Yeah.
So people would get upset if a bed wasn't made, but then there was other people who got completely angry that a bed was made because
that's even worse. Because if you find, let's say, one of our cleaners, which happen to be mostly women, and a hair ends up on a made bed, people freak out.
Right, they think that the bed wasn't, the sheets weren't clean.
Right.
So
Did you even change these from the last renter? Like people get upset.
And
understandably.
Sure. So I think while you're thinking about getting your property ready, you really should have a set in stone type of protocol that you follow. Again, I liked the beds not being made. I know it was a bit of a hassle for renters to have to come in and put the spreads on and do those things for the sheets. But to me, especially with COVID not too many years ago and people really freaking out then, that's really when this actually happened. People don't want to get into a bed that they think could have sand in it or hair in it. At least this way they know they have a fresh pack of linens. Take the extra 10-15 minutes, put it on the bed.
That way you know yourself. You got clean linens here. You've made the bed. You know that bed is now covered with clean linens. Someone else didn't do it, right? We didn't forget. For us, we bring the linens in. We just drop them. We do, I think, a lot of times set the linens out. We have them all marked for what beds they go to. But we don't make the beds. Right. And that's a decision that we made based on the feedback we received over years of doing this, that more people are upset about the bed being made and finding a hair in it than they are the bed's not being made.
Well, let's not forget how Airbnb started, right? Airbnb really started originally that you were just leaving your house. Exactly. You were leaving your house, somebody was coming in just the way it was when you left and they were using it. Obviously that third-party platform has gotten a bit different now where it's, property manager on there, people who own multiple properties, while they may not be a property manager per se, they just are a person who owns a whole bunch. So again, when you rent off of that platform, you're not always sharing that person's house anymore. Right?
It's your space. It becomes your space for your time.
For your space, for your time. So, almost like a hotel, but nicer because you have the luxuries of having a kitchen and bathrooms and more living space and stuff like that.
Exactly. The other thing, just I have a couple notes here that I think sometimes gets overlooked is a rental license. Right here in Ocean City, you have to have a rental license in order to be able to rent your property. A lot of people forget, or they don't know that you have to have a rental license. I think having that, having all the legalities in place, right? Something set up so you can pay your taxes, because you have your county tax and your room tax here in Ocean City that you have to pay for every stay. So by having that license, you have an apparatus to have those things paid.
Those things taken out.
Right.
Yeah. So while Mike talks about the nuance of it. The other thought of for me is I was after last year. My thing is this: is that you have to do some stuff that kind of sets you apart too, right? So because remember, people are paying good money to come stay at your place, and so you really want them to envision themselves leaving their home wherever they are and coming to your house. So I always tell my buyers, especially if you're going to buy a property, think about the luxuries that you would want in a property, like an outlet with a charging plug in it, or we just talked about the coffee bar, or maybe a video games for the kids there. Try to set yourself apart a little bit.
Wi-Fi with streaming apps or a smart TV.
Okay, like the Roku TV.
Exactly. People can get on, with the Roku devices we use, is live TV, so you still have the luxuries of home, but you're able to go on. The way we have it set up with all of our Rokus is we have vacation mode.
Okay.
And so people can come in, put in your checkout date when you're going to be leaving. You can log into all of your apps, Netflix, Apple TV, whatever it may be. And then when you check out on that date, everything gets erased.
That's nice.
Right. So you don't have to worry about, because I know a lot of people, when you stay places, you log in, you forget to log out, somebody else comes in, now they have access to your information, to what you're watching. They can watch, if they don't have a Netflix account, they can watch your Netflix account, right?
So Roku TVs are super important. I would agree with you. And again, before last year, that really was not on my radar.
Yep. I didn't even think about it.
No, I never thought about it either. Coffee bar, the cool little outlet. So again, those items that are luxuries here, like maybe some beach chairs.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Umbrella,
a beach wagon.
Beach wagons are huge.
Pull stuff out.
Yeah. So when you're prepping your rental to get ready for the season, I agree with Mike. I think the number one complaint always is going to be cleanliness.
Absolutely.
And then after you do that, and then you do your maintenance check, then you have to look at, what am I offering and what brings them back?
Make sure there's no concern for a renter. So one of the biggest things people don't think about is like a pack and play, or a collapsible crib or something. People don't always travel with those things. They have a small child, they're trying to get out the door. You forget those items, and so we recommend for our owners to have a pack and play, easily set up. You can put the baby in there. So you don't have to worry about, what am I going to do with my...
So I guess a high chair, kind of a high chair.
Yeah, high chair. Something you can maybe detach from a chair, something, one of those, I don't even know what they're called, you can attach to a chair. Yeah.
So besides, like, everybody has a microwave now, is there any other appliance that, air fryer, is there something that you would recommend?
Pizza cutter.
Pizza, okay.
Multiple pizza cutters, because people come, they leave them in, sometimes they get thrown away. So having multiples in the unit, so that when people get pizza, sometimes you need to cut a piece of pizza.
And there's a lot of people eating pizza on vacation.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's easy, it's quick, convenient. So having those items there, and I think a fully stocked kitchen. Honestly, having pots and pans. Some people do like to cook. Nowadays with prices the way they are, most families, I know mine, we do, when we go on vacation, we'll eat out maybe 2 or 3 nights, but the rest of the time we're there, we're cooking. Right. And so having all those essential items, I guess, in the kitchen is a huge benefit.
Yeah, so what I always liked was when a renter was coming in and they were sending us messages, which they can via the third party. They might be specific on what they're looking for.
Right.
So, I would encourage, if you're within reason, of course, if you're a renter and you're watching this and you're coming down to the beach, whether you're staying with, Shepherd Rentals, or you're staying at somebody else's VRBO or Airbnb, it's okay to make a request, or at least ask if they have something, right?
Yeah.
Because
there might be things that we don't, a lot of times we don't think of some things. I have a client that they were really adamant about having a tea strainer in their unit. Now, tea's not something I drink. I don't know, a lot of people that do, but I never thought about, some people do like to have tea, when they're down in the evenings or whatever. Some people don't drink coffee.
Right.
And so that's something I never even thought about.
Right. So again, just make that request.
Yeah.
Or if you're preparing your place to be rented, I don't know what a tea strainer even costs. That would have to be pretty inexpensive.
Bucks,
a couple bucks. So again,
I didn't even know it was a thing.
Right, so I guess to Mike's point is you really want to try to think outside the box on what somebody would want and then make sure that your kitchen is stocked for that as well. I guess, then now I think about this, there was one owner who actually had a list of stuff they actually had. So when a renter came in, there was actually, we have, the coffee maker, we have the tea strainer or the tea maker or the hot pot or whatever those things were. So again, if you're getting your place ready, it's okay to have an itemized list of things that you have in there so that a potential renter can...
I recommend it.
Okay,
have
there
it
you go.
accessible, have it out. Here's what's here. If there's something you don't see here that you need, we recommend either getting it or give us a call. Let us know that we need to have these items here. Because a lot of our owners, and I think you can attest to this, are open to
Absolutely.
just tell me what we need to do.
Absolutely.
Right, and we'll do it. And so if you go to a place that they don't have something, like Mitch said, don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, a must-have is a hair dryer. Right.
Iron.
And hair, and trust me, I learned the hard way. So you definitely want to have a hair dryer, an ironing board of some sort that they can actually do
and
it
a wine
on.
opener.
And wine opener and bottle opener. Yes.
Yeah.
And you can't expect your renter to clean if you don't provide a good vacuum, a broom, a Swiffer, those things as well, dustpans.
If you have those items in your unit, people will use them.
People will use them.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. Because again, even when I go out, nothing against the cleaning companies before, but I'm a cleaner, so I'd go back in and re-clean when I got there. So I'm looking for, Lysol wipes under the cabinet and those type of things.
Yeah, huge. I mean, people, I never thought about that, having those items there until my wife and I and her family went on vacation one time. We went to a place and it wasn't clean. And so we ended up having to re-clean the place. And thankfully they had items there that we could use. And I was like, I didn't even think about this. To me, anything that's not bolted down, I'm just thinking about it's going to get stolen. And unfortunately, that does happen in some places. But so I didn't even think about having anything there, right? Because you rely on the cleaning company. You think they're going to do their job, but they don't always. I think we do a better job than most. We get fewer cleaning complaints here.
Yeah, I think again, cleanliness is one of those really touchy topics because what one person thinks is super clean, another person may not. Or, right, I mean, I'm very particular about things being clean to a certain way, but even how particular I am, there were occasions where a renter might go, it's not clean, and I'm like, I know it's clean because I went in after the cleaner and cleaned again because of just my type A personality.
Right.
And so, so what I would say if the renters are watching is, do allow some grace, understanding,
you're not going to get everything.
What your level is.
Yeah, especially if there's carpeting in the unit, you're not going to get the whole place.
Carpet's tough.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you could be in there all day.
And I love carpet. Like I want carpet in my bedrooms, right? I'm okay with carpet not being in a family room or a kitchen or obviously no carpet in a bathroom. But I like to wake up in the morning and put my feet on carpet.
You and I, we agree on that. But when it comes to a rental, I tell people get all the carpet out because it's just going to create problems.
Okay.
I mean, we had one recently, a new client of mine that I think was a client of yours last year. They had several carpets throughout, and she's like, "What do you think?" And I said, "I think you should get rid of them. Just get rid of them completely because the number one complaint we're going to get in here is that the floor is not clean."
Right. And it is.
It is.
But unfortunately, again, we're repeating ourselves on this, but this is super hard point for people to understand, or it should be easy. We're at the beach. We have sand.
We have sand.
Even though you wash off and rinse off before you come out, you still bring sand to your unit every single time, and that sand gets in the carpet. The minerals in the sand get in the carpet, and as much as you clean and have a spot doctor come in and them clean or whatever else, carpet clean it, it's still there.
Yeah.
It is. And so, again,
feet find it.
Feet find it. Kids find it.
Yeah.
Right. White socks find it. Right. So give some grace there on that portion of it. So I do want to segue into something I think is important, especially since you have a whole bunch of stuff too that we'll go back and forth, but there are a few areas. There's 4 areas where people can actually rent their property from. And so I was thinking about this yesterday. when we're thinking about topics to talk about. And so obviously everybody knows Airbnb, right? So Airbnb, then there's VRBO, right? But your own website or your property manager's website is super important place to access the rental.
Yeah, and I think that's important to key in on. Like for us, we have White Marlin Property Services, where you can go and rent from all directly, and you save money.
Well, that's
so if you don't have the upcharge and the fees from Airbnb and VRBO. You book directly, you're going to save. I mean, I just had a client reach out that stayed with us last year, and they said, hey, we want to stay in the same spot, but we don't want to go through, I won't say the website. And I said, so I directed them to our site. And by booking directly to our site, they saved $400
really
for their stay,
right.
on a 4-night stay.
And there's, look, again, Mike and I are all about making money. And so we understand that there has to be Airbnb, VRBO, HomeAway, all those companies have to make money, right?
Yep.
And so, because they're hosting. And so we get it. But again, to Mike's point is, if you can find the direct rental agency that you want to use, you're going to save money.
Yeah, go there first.
And then the fourth one is, and this is for the savvy owner, so this goes back to you as an owner of a property. Create a website on your own that can redirect them to your property manager's site, and or at least have it where you can share it on Facebook or any social media out there. They can reach out to you, and then you can forward that information to the property manager directly. Again, you want to create as many, I call them mouse traps, out there that you can possibly have to get a prospective renter. And for you as the renters, it's only in your best benefit to, find those things that are not third party.
Yeah, and you want returning tenants.
Yes.
Right? You want people that
they make money.
Yeah, the people coming back year after year after year. If you direct them to your site, they're more likely to come back to you if they know they can come back. They enjoyed their time there. They can come back next year for $500 less.
They're saving money.
They're saving money.
They're saving money.
Or even if your rates go up, they could still save money by booking
compared to what they did the time before. And again, this is another thing both for the owner and for the renters. Sometimes if you are going to be booking far out in advance, and especially for maybe a long term, owners in my conversations last year, are more apt to give some type of long term discount, right? Because now they're booked up, and then so for you as a renter who knows the property really well and you like the location, you like the amenities that it has, it might be in your best interest to book that property. And look, ask. The worst thing that happens is they say no.
Yeah, we say that in real estate just in general. I mean, you never know if you don't ask.
You have to ask.
People are like, you think they'll? I don't know. Let's ask.
Don't know. We don't have the crystal ball.
We're still working on it.
We'd love to have the crystal ball. And if as soon as you don't see us anymore, then we found the crystal ball. Right.
And you'll see us on TV teaching other people.
Right, with the crystal ball. So are any other items that you have written down?
No, I think we pretty much covered everything. I mean, cleanliness, making sure everything in your unit is clean, as far as pillows, comforters, all that. Having those items in the kitchen that are necessary, a broom, mop, dustpan, all that stuff, you're pretty well covered.
Okay, and again, we're going to talk in general at the very end of this. So Mike kind of did a nice follow-up. So make sure the place is clean. Make sure you do a maintenance check. Have some extra pillowcases, blankets. Make sure that you have multiple utensils.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coffee bar is huge. Have some understanding both as an owner and as a renter that things do unfortunately go wrong. And then that way, I think your experience will be much more. I don't want to say easy, but I would like to say the experience would be much more turnkey.
Enjoyable,
turnkey that way.
I mean, the reason people go on vacation is to relax, right? So if they come to your place and they don't have anything to worry about,
exactly,
you're going to get a great review and they're going to return.
Which was going to lead me to my very last part, and this is the review. And so the review is probably the most important part moving forward for a property, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I book online, I look at the reviews. What were other people's experiences at that unit or at that that house? And I do. You're going to have almost every unit is going to have a bad review, right?
Absolutely.
Now, those I think you need to take with a grain of salt, right? If you see a unit that has, 50 reviews and 35 of them are 5-star, 12 of them are 4-star, and then you have a 1-star. Well, was that really the unit's fault, or was that the person just, you're not going to make them happy? Because there are people out there you're just not going to make happy.
Yeah, and I'm gonna give you. I think it's since I'm not in the business this year of managing rentals, I will give you a quick story about my experience last year, early on when we first started. Because I think this is to Mike's point is, read the reviews because they're super important in explaining to you what the property has to offer. But if something has a whole bunch of great reviews and then all of a sudden there's just one crazy review, it's probably out of anger. Mm-hmm. So the experience that I'm going to talk about happened early on last year, and it was a learning lesson for me for sure. Not thinking about reviews. Again, I just wasn't. We had good reviews from the previous renters, and parking passes are such a crazy part of Ocean City because buildings actually, if you don't have a parking pass, you get towed. They'll tell you, and the rental management company can't make their own because it's not what the association wants. So, making sure that you get that rental permit back from a renter is crazy important, right? And sometimes if you don't get it back, then there's quite a bit of fee to pay. Yeah. $150, $200, $300. Just depends on what it is. So long story short is, the renter had a great experience. I had the text messages back and forth of how great the experience was, how easy the check-in was. I had all of the stuff that you would want as a person, and we were communicating the whole time. So at the very last moment, the system automatically sent out, hey, please remember to leave your parking pass, because this specific building only had one parking space in the actual parking lot, and then there was another one in an auxiliary lot, and I had to have that back. So sent it out, no response, sent it out again, that the system does automatically, and the lady goes, I'm so sorry, it's already gone with the family member. And I was like, okay, can you drive it back? Can you bring it back? It's super important. I don't want to charge you for this. And she started to get angry that there was going to be a charge for this. And I was like, I'm so sorry. We had this. We reminded you multiple times to leave this. Like 6 o'clock in the morning, the night before, 6 o'clock before you even checked out, was another message because checkout's at 10 a.m. So I did everything I thought was right, and then the conversation, I called on the phone to have a nice conversation on the phone and said, listen, I'm so sorry, but if you're not going to bring this back, there's a charge that we'll just put onto your Airbnb account. Again, it was not a friendly conversation, and a bad review ensued. Right. And as a first-time person trying to help, I had to call my owner, explain the situation to them. And the review does hurt. Yeah. Right? I mean, because people will be, until you get the other reviews to kind of, I don't want to say bury that one, but again, please read the reviews, understand that there are some extenuating circumstances that could pop up.
I think it's important for us that we're able to respond to those reviews. I think you did.
I did.
So you were able to actually give the full story, because there is you need some context sometimes when you see a bad review, because like you said, it started out, they were very happy with their stay. Yeah. And then because of their actions, correct, and they were not happy with the results, right, that they were going to be charged for that, then they got upset, and now it all became, the unit wasn't great, we had a bad stay. All this occurred within an hour, but their first, 72 hours in the unit was great. Were fantastic.
It was great.
But yeah, so the review, you have to, I think, take it with a grain of salt. Understand, I think if you see a response, read that as well. Because those are important.
Right. Well, so again, this is so for you as the owner, if you do get a bad review, look, it's not your job to beat up the renter. Your job is to explain, because to the readers coming in looking at your reviews, actually what happened.
You're able to see the full picture.
Right. It's not and this is one thing that I learned. It's not a 1v1, right? I'm not attacking the renter. The renter did attack us, but that's not what your response should be. The response should be to everybody else who's potentially going to rent the property. So again, please make sure the reviews are accurate. Reviews are super important, and please take the reviews with a grain of salt if you see a one-off.
Yeah, if you see a bunch in
a different story.
Obviously, that's a different story. But you see one amongst 50, that's not so great. But I think it's also, to your point, setting expectations for the renter as well. And so no, for them having all the information they can prior to booking or directly after booking, I think is important as well.
Communication.
So that person probably did read that there would be a charge if they didn't leave the parking pass, right? They kind of foo-fooed it, didn't pay attention. Then when it came time to pay up, they weren't happy.
Right.
But they had the information prior to. They were notified several times, and so.
Well, and by the way, we didn't make him pay. I paid it out of my own money. I got it from the management company. So again, we try to do our best to do that. So, in closing, to wrap this up, if you own a rental property, I'm going to go back to the very first thing Mike said. It's got to be clean. If it's not clean, then you're just going to have a whole host of issues
Everything
going
else is downhill
after that.
Doesn't matter what you do beyond that.
Agreed. So we appreciate you tuning into episode 10 of BeachLife Unlocked. Again, always feel free to contact us, especially if you are potentially want to rent a property out. Give Mike a call. Mike is a wealth of knowledge on that. If you call me to rent the property out, I'll just pass you on to Mike. But I'm happy to answer your questions that you might have. Maybe you're doing it yourself. So again, we're here for you. We're real estate experts. So we like to make sure that you have the information you need. If you also want to find us on our website, feel free to do that.
BeachLifeOceancity.com.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.